Hello there beautiful, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr and welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now in today's video we're going to talk about Zack, and the reason we're going to talk about Zack now is because it's going to be one of those banners that's going to shadow drop out of nowhere. We don't really know what's happening with it, but I thought it would be a good idea to at least give people an idea of what Zack does and how valuable he is to your team going forward when he's just gotten his LD and a rework, and a pretty hefty one at that. And I'm going to be going off of the JP version banner, but I'm going to say it now and I'll be saying it again in a little while. Do bear in mind that this banner is very subject to change. And obviously because we don't have an event with this particular banner, I'm not going to discuss any kind of events or anything, but instead I'm going to give you guys a couple of updates with regards to the channel itself and addressing a lot of questions that I've been getting asked recently over on social media. So if that all that stuff interests you, then stay tuned and keep on watching. Now before we get started, of course, don't forget to check out all of my social media links down below, including Twitch, Twitter, Discord, and Patreon. Over on Twitch, I'm still streaming every event as and when they come out. Unless we get an event that comes out alongside Zack, I'm thinking maybe a Halloween something along those lines. I'm probably not going to stream just pulls for Zack. But obviously we do everything else on there, as well as FF14 and Smash Bros I've been doing a lot more of recently, which has been really fun. So definitely come along and find me on Twitch if you want to come and join in with that. Over on Patreon, I want to give thanks to all of my patrons who support this channel further, and I always give a shout out to one of those patrons every time I release a video, and today that person is going to be Kovacs, who has Sellers as their title card, and a lot of people on my Patreon have a big thing for Sellers. Like, she's very popular amongst my patrons, so massive thank you goes out to you, Kovacs, as well as all of my other patrons. And if you'd like to join in to receive lots of benefits, including being part of the Should You Pull, being part of Would You Pull, being having a title card made for you just for you by me to go at the end of all of my videos, and all sorts of other benefits, then click on the link in the description box below. And then of course lastly, don't forget to check out all of the other resources and content creators out there for Dissidia Opera Omnia who work just as hard as I do. So first things first, let's take a look at the banner and what we think may or may not be on that banner, because this is another kind of time-shifting banner like we've seen before with Setzer when he came out, and obviously they've already told us that other banners will be like this. So in JP, as it stands, we have Zack LD, Ash LD, and then Ace's BT. Now, we've seen this before, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen again, seeing as it came after all of the other banners featured on Ace's BT batch. But I'm not sure we'll necessarily get Ace's BT on this banner. He may get replaced for a third LD. We don't know exactly. There's no, all the speculation in the world won't know until it eventually drops. But I am going off of the banner as it is right now, and my suggestion on that front would be to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Because a lot of people weren't very happy about Tidus BT not being on Setzer's banner, so just bear that in mind and be cautious. Quick note on Ash, like Ash LD wasn't actually featured that long ago, and she's still fairly relevant now. Like, she definitely has a unique niche in that she manipulates turn order, and she also like refills EX gauges instantaneously with her LD, so she's got a lot of use when it comes to that. She has Holy and Lightning Enchant and Imperil, which is really nice. She has HP regen, she's got supporting buffs and auras, things like that, and she has a whopping 40% HP damage increase on her Queen's Order, which is temporary, but it can actually be really powerful. So if she turns out that she's on the banner, then she's definitely a nice secondary pickup if you don't already have her. But we're here to talk about Zack. So Zack, first things first, gets a rework. Now, if you haven't used Zack before, and a lot of people have, Zack is a tank. Zack is a tank that does on-turn damage as opposed to your Galoofs or some other characters we have coming up in the future where they do off-turn damage, Gladio, etc., things like that. Whereas Zack doesn't really do that. He just prevents damage and does a lot of damage in his own turn. His rework pushes him much further in that direction. And by that, I would actually go so far as to say he's not a tank anymore that does good damage. He's a damage dealer that has tanking capabilities at this point. Because Rush Assault and Chain Slash both get reworked, and Chain Slash gets a huge rework, being a multi-HP dumping attack that goes off twice as long as he's targeting somebody that's targeting him. He also inflicts lock on all enemies, so that's going to happen fairly frequently. So once you've got that on the case and it goes off, you've got a lot of damage coming that way. But what if their defense is really high? Well, you can use Rush Assault instead, which is now a 2-hit Brave HP attack that goes off 5 times and ignores defense, which is pretty huge. Like, that's a massive improvement to his damage dealing capabilities. Watching Rush Assault or Chain Slash deal like 500,000 damage just quite casually is a sight to behold. And then obviously he still has the lock capabilities, he still has his EX, which gives him access to the Brave Barrier, so as long as he's taking HP damage under his Bravery shield, he just doesn't take anything. It's like, he's got a lot going for him in terms of being a tank as well as being a damage dealer. But at this point, like, without the LD, he doesn't really have a huge reason to be an on-turn damage tank, because if you're taking a tank, typically you're allowing the enemies to get a lot of turns, and therefore you're wanting off-turn damage in order to circumvent the fact that you're not getting those turns. Zack doesn't do that. Zack doesn't counter or do anything like that, but what he does do is a hell of a lot of damage on his turn, and he's quite good at tanking things, and or at least for himself, so that you're taking less damage overall. His LD is a 6-hit Brave HP attack that goes off twice, that gives you a free ability use on the next turn, gives you a big ol' heal as well, which is something that Zack didn't really do for the party beforehand. He's got HP heal overflow, which is very nice as well. It locks all enemies, same as a lot of his stuff does, and it gives him a new buff called Embrace Your Dreams, which goes up in stacks whenever he takes bravery or HP damage, so that includes him nullifying it through his EX. But he gets HP damage up, he gets Brave Overflow up, and then the party gets HP regen, HP damage resist, Brave damage resist, and party defense up. Now the HP and Bravery damage resists are pretty high at 30 and 50%, and then defense going up by 200% is heavy. Like, but obviously you need him to get hit in those turns in order for him to get those stacks, and obviously during those turns he's not counterattacking and making your damage any higher. But like I said, the best way to consider him at this point, I feel, is to consider him a damage dealer that does tanky things, because he does a lot of damage. Like his HP damage going up by 20%, the fact that with his rework passives, he regains bravery or refunds bravery after his attacks go off with Rush Assault, you're going to deal a lot of damage with Rush Assault now. Like I said, like 500,000, we're talking Tifa levels of damage here. So the fact that he has that, on top of the fact that he has all these tanking capabilities, means that he's got a lot of damage on his side. Whether you prefer to have off-turn damage tanks or pure damage dealers, that's more of a thing, like a choice thing. But it's also important to note that he does get reworked again, so that his EX does a lot more damage. His LD does extra HP dumps. And then he gets a BT going forward as well, which is also very, very, very powerful as well, by party bravery damage going up, party HP damage going up. He can't die. All AoE attacks go to him, so he turns into a bit of a Barsh character as well. He gets a lot from his BT going forward. But that's obviously not for a long time yet, and by the time we get to that point, we'll have a much wider variety of characters to choose from. And the characters that I want to point out are coming up relatively soon are Auron and Snow with their LDs as well. So perhaps take a look at those in advance before I go and make Should You Pull videos on those particular characters before making a decision on Zack, because you may find you prefer them. But if you don't, Zack is definitely worth looking at on the basis of how much damage he does alone, and the fact that he gives you so much protection while you're doing it. It's good stuff. Cool abilities wise, his Chain Slash is just an attack with lock on it. It doesn't really do an awful lot past that. You get a decent amount of lock from it. And then Meteor Shots does a similar kind of thing. It does lock as well, but it also gives you a large HP heal, including HP overflow, which is pleasant. I don't typically think you're going to take Zack often for his cool abilities. Like, there are reasons why you might, like if you want to combo his lock with someone like, you know, someone who has evasion up or something like that, or somebody who wants to get hit in order to get their effects off, but typically those characters tend to have lock themselves, though there are exceptions in which case you may want to bring Zack along for that. Armor-wise, he has attack keystone, rightfully so, and an increase of 20% to cap for both his bravery and his HP damage limits, rightfully so, because he's got a large amount of bravery hits in his kit, but he also has a lot of HP dumps in his kit, so he'll definitely benefit from having HA plus by having 20% on both sides, because by regaining all that bravery through his rush assault and things like that, you'll probably find you will actually get some caps out on this. However, I think the problem with Zack at this point in time is not him, it's the content around him. So the content around him for a while seems to sort of lean towards either letting the enemies take a lot of turns and using off-turn damage to deal a lot of damage, so using Ace, Galoof, things like that. A lot of people like to use trap-based characters at the moment when it comes to particular events. I'll use Vayne's event as an example as well. And then either that, or you typically don't let the enemy take a turn at all. So you have mass delay like compositions, including Vayne or Quistis or Cypher or Garland. There's ways of doing it so that the enemy doesn't take a turn at all. So Sid Reigns, etc. So while Zack's really good, like he's really, really strong, I would treat him more as a damage dealer than I would a tank at this point in time. That's not to say he can't tank, because he absolutely can. He's very good at it. But I think that because the way the game is right now, it kind of leans on either of those directions for clearing content in Lufenia Pluses, you'll find you don't need to have Zack for any particular purpose. If you're lacking any kind of tank, go for it. He's really good. But I think that people will largely be pulling for Zack because they either really love him or because they're wanting to save themselves from having to get his LD later. That's not to say you can't use him in current Lufenia Plus content. You absolutely can. His damage is fantastic. But that's how I would consider pulling for him, as opposed to him being a tank character at this moment in time. So because we don't have an event or anything to go with Zack, or we don't even know what's coming up with Zack, so it's really hard to recommend either way when it comes to should you pull on Zack. I will still be making my comments on that known as well after this, but I feel that I wanted to give an update on the channel itself because I've been getting a lot of questions recently on various topics, and it's all stuff that I want to address because I've honestly been quite overwhelmed by it. Now, first things first, I want to speak about future pulls because I've had a lot of people message me on Twitter, Discord, YouTube comments, all sorts of things asking where the next one is. I've had people even sort of demanding where future pulls is, and I'm kind of like, okay, I'm struggling with this a little bit, and why I currently don't have plans to make one right now. With the way that Dissidia is currently, pulls are a lot more subjective than they have ever been before. Not that they haven't not been subjective to some extent, like you should always be using the characters you enjoy most, but it was a lot easier a year ago, or 2 years ago, even a year ago I struggled with future pulls a little bit, because there's no straight up wrong way to pull in this game right now. As long as you're covering your roles, you can actually use pretty much whoever you want from sort of the next month onwards. C90 era is very exciting because there are so many characters that become usable that you really can get away with using your favorites. And so if I were to make a future pulls video now, the pulls that I would make would look probably completely different to how somebody else's would. That, and I feel that amount of resources comes into it quite a lot, and this past 9 months, my luck has been, in my eyes, very, very poor. There have been shining moments, but they've been very few and far between. But when it comes to future pulls itself, I do think that the most important thing is to update your roles so that they are current with content, and to go off with characters that you think will work best for the Lufenia Plus missions that you're wanting to tackle. And I would personally love to hear people's ideas for how to maybe switch it up a little bit on future pulls. Maybe I'll title it like the characters that I'm looking at, because I think that the reason people like that video as much as they do is because they're looking to see what everyone's going to do in the next sort of 9 months all at once. But obviously to prepare that much research and that much content all at once is quite a difficult feat to do, and I would much rather hold off and release a video that I felt confident in than release one that I didn't believe in and that people would find contentious and that people would find fault in. I would much rather be confident in what I was doing than not. Which brings me to my next point as well. Now, I know a lot of people have asked me whether I'm okay recently, which is nice, and I'm very, very thankful for that. It's really lovely that people care about my well-being, because they've noticed that whether it's been on videos or whether I've been streaming, particularly when doing Dissidia, they've kind of thought that something felt off or something felt different, or maybe I was feeling a bit low. And to truth be told, I've been better. Like, I find myself feeling quite fearful when it comes to streaming Dissidia in particular. Like, pulls are a massive thing for me. Like, I mean, I made no secret about the fact that I don't like pulling in gacha games, which is why you'll never see me doing pull battles or anything like that, because I find that people get competitive over an aspect that we have no control over. Whether your luck is good or bad shouldn't really factor into, like, whether my luck is good or bad shouldn't really factor into whether someone else is enjoying the game or not. And yet, I find myself feeling scared because if I pull badly, then I feel sad about it. Like, it's just fact. It's a sad thing. And people will tell me off for feeling that kind of way, and they'll tell me that I'm not allowed to feel that way. Similarly, when I pulled well on Sid Reigns, this was a really good example of it. I did pull well on Sid Reigns, and I felt happy and excited for about 20 seconds until I started thinking, oh god, now people are going to find a reason to read me for that. Like, oh, he complains about this, but this has happened. And basically what it's come down to is that people seem to have a real joy in telling me how I'm supposed to feel at any given point, and that makes me quite fearful. I didn't do well on Prompto or Quistis, and I felt sad for it. But the reason for that is because I knew it was going to get compounded by other people's opinions. Now, I understand that I have a public platform, and I'm very thankful for that public platform, and I understand that the challenges that come with that. But when it happens every time a banner comes out on this game, regardless of whether it goes well or badly, it starts to affect me. And now I'm saying this because I want people who have said to me in the past that they enjoy watching me fail, because that's come up more than once, that while I do get affected by these things sometimes, and I want to vent my frustrations, and I want to be allowed to vent my frustrations at various things, because realistically Dissidia is just a game. Whether it's my livelihood or not, it is just a game, and I have feelings towards things one way or another, whether I get excited because something's gone well, or people have said something nice to me, or the game's not been very nice and then people have not been very nice to follow it. I want to cultivate an environment of positivity and lifting people up, and it's something that's always been very important to me because, that's why I do the charity events, it's why I do the meetups, it's why I do the quizzes that I've done in the past. There's lots of things that I like to do, but people seem very focused on that one aspect that is something I have no control over, and I struggle with that sometimes. I do get affected by it, but I want these haters to know that it's never going to stop me from doing what I love. Because I love what I do, and I love this channel, and I've worked very hard to get to where it is, and I don't want to lose it over anything as silly as that. And I think that it's important to know that there are a lot of positive things about it as well, but I want to address these things, and I want to continue to cultivate and grow an environment where not only I feel safe, but the people in my community feel safe. That's extremely important to me. I've actually recently discovered that I suffer quite badly from anxiety. And I am in the process of mental health treatment. I've been seeing a therapist, and I make no secrets about anything like that because I think it's very important to address these things. But it does mean that sometimes things affect me more than they should, and I acknowledge that. And it's the message that I'm trying to put across is that I think it's very important for people to not judge anyone else on how they're feeling at any given time, because it's no one else's business to tell someone how they should be feeling, and it can be quite damaging to that person. But it's not all... I wanted to address these things because I think it was important, and I was getting a lot of questions on social media regarding those particular things. But I think it's really important to know that there's a lot of really good stuff going forward as well. We have the meetup happening in a couple of weeks. I'm so excited for that. I cannot wait to meet some of you guys. Being social and meeting people who like the same things as me is the reason that I do what I do. So I'm so excited for that, and I hope it does well, because it means that I can then continue to do more of them, meet more of you guys, and that's going to be absolutely fantastic. Then we have Endwalker coming out, which I'm hoping will give me a brand new avenue to explore. I'm not the most confident player for 14 in the world, but people's feedback on my 14 content has been really good, but anxiety has gotten the better of me a little bit sometimes, and I don't release it as much as I should because I'm really scared that it's not going to do well. I've also been starting to travel to Smash Bros tournaments with Sephiroth, which is another thing that's allowing me to meet people. And, you know, streams for that have been doing really well. And so I don't want to come across as being like all doom and gloom, because there's lots of great stuff happening. I just wanted to address the questions that I've been getting a lot of over the past couple of weeks, and I hope that what I said explains where I'm at well. And thank you very much for listening, and I hope that that's come across as I hope it does. Now that that's all done and out of the way, thank you very much for listening to that. Let's get back to Zack and talk about whether we should be pulling for him or not. Now again, I'll say it again, it's very important to know that this banner could be completely different from what it is, so I'm just going to focus on Zack for the most part. But if Ash is still on the banner, she does still carve herself out with a unique niche. She's got a really cool LD, she's got a lot of positive things about her. Her damage is a bit lackluster, and you don't necessarily have to have her. She's more of a fun combo character than a character you absolutely have to have. But she is a great third-party member to have for the HP regen, the Imperiling Chant, the offensive auras, and of course the turn manipulation and EX refilling, and Queen's Order having a massive HP damage increase. But past that, it's difficult to make comment on the banner itself. So take a look at Zack himself. Zack is a damage dealer that tanks, not so much the other way around. He's very good at dealing damage, very good at it. With Rush Assault having Defense Ignore is a key term that you're going to be seeing a lot of, like, going forward, that is always going to raise an eyebrow. Like, you always kind of look at that and go, okay, I think I might need to take notice of this. And he has a fantastic future ahead of him with an insanely powerful BT. So pulling for him now will mean you don't have to pull for him later, and you will get some uses out of him if you want to. Like, the fact that he does that much damage means that you can absolutely put him in a team that, like, a more sort of regular team that allows the enemy to take the odd turn, but you're still churning out loads of damage, as long as you're cautious of Lefenia orbs, etc. But everyone's going to want him when his BT comes out, more than likely. He's a very, very popular character. He does a heck of a lot of damage. He protects your party really well. What he doesn't do is off-turn damage or any kind of countering or any kind of fun stuff like that a lot of tanks do going forward. And Aura and Snow are quickly approaching, so some people may opt to wait for those characters as opposed to Zack, when we know that Zack will return when he's that much stronger. Content also doesn't really revolve around what Zack does outside of dealing a large amount of damage, as it seems like, as I said earlier, teams tend to opt for allowing the enemy to take a lot of turns or stopping them from taking one altogether. There's no reason why Zack couldn't be in those teams, absolutely not. But if you've got other ways of doing that, you don't necessarily have to have Zack for it. He's going to do a lot of damage on his turns, a lot of damage, but you don't have to go in all in on him, even if you want him later on, because you can wait until later. I'm probably not going to be pulling on Zack, purely because I have spent a lot of resources recently. Vayne is a character that is a favourite of mine that's coming up. Kate Sith is a character I know I want. So maybe I'll come back to him if those two are nice to me, and then we'll see how we go. But at present time, I'm probably not going to be pulling for Zack, because I know that I'm going to want Auron when he comes out and probably make more use of him, at least up until the point where Zack gets his C90 and his BT. And then finally, of course, we have Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and tell everyone whether you would or wouldn't pull on any given banner and why. Now, with Zack's banner, I feel that it's not surprising, but it's fairly contentious across the board. So once again, a massive thank you goes to my patrons for their votes and their comments as always. And if you'd like to see the full database of comments and votes, etc. for all of the banners that we do, then it's all part of the package of Patreon. So click on that in the link in the description box below if you're interested. Now, 22% of people said they were going to use gems here. 43% of people said they were going to use 100 or more tickets here. 4% said they were going to use less than 100 tickets here, and 30% said no. So there are more people saying that they want it than don't, but there's a fair few people skipping this banner entirely. So let's go into some of the comments and see what everybody else thinks. So Cobalt Zorg says, I just really like Zack. He might be a unit whose playstyle isn't encouraged much. He may be eclipsed by other tanks in the future that I also want. He might appear on a better banner later with his BT. I'll still pull for him now though. I don't really do the whole waiting thing. If I want them, I'll get them or try as soon as they arrive. I don't know about eclipsed by other tanks. I think he acts very differently from other tanks in that tanking is almost like a secondary to him at this point. With the amount of damage that he does with his LD and both of his skills, having the lock on targets and stuff is almost just an added bonus for him at this point. But the fact that he tanks as well as he does in terms of mitigating damage, even if he doesn't return that damage, there's a lot to like about Zack now and later. Jamakai says, Zack, assuming his banner will at least be close to similar to what it was on JP, is getting my gems. Not only is he a fan favourite of mine, but his LD helps with locking multiple targets, providing a heal party on command, as well as making the party's defences crazy high. When he first got a free EX from the Pro Tag shop, he's who I got, and he's what carried me through those first several Chaos fights. I'd be remiss to not get his LD. Plus, when his burst comes around, there'll be one less weapon to worry about. Furthermore, if the banner does have Ashe, she'd be a great consolation prize, and I didn't get her when she got her LD. So fingers crossed there. I will say that I am concerned about what this banner is going to look like when it arrives in Global and when it arrives in Global, because if they leave it too late, then people probably won't be interested. And if it doesn't feature a BT, people will probably be a lot less interested. Like, if they do a third LD on there, it's better be somebody really crazy, not a Mid-Italian or something. But, yeah, I don't want to see a repeat of what happened with Tidus and Setzer. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Moderation Lion says, I'll be skipping Zack, not especially interested in what he brings to the table, though he gets a lot of great fixes with his rework, and he is quite frankly entirely unnecessary for any content for some time. While you could say that of any character, he doesn't make any of the upcoming stages notably easier for his presence, unlike Beatrix or Agrius, etc. His BT return banner features Rydia, my favourite character of FF4, and is a more appealing get at that time in my opinion. Add to the fact that another favourite, Auron, is due to glow up at the end of the next month, and then Snow gets his the month after that. No reason to pull for somebody I simply won't use over other characters. This is kind of where I'm at with it. I like Rydia. I'm not like a massive Rydia fan, but I already have Ashe. So if the banner stays as it is, then this will be a ticket banner for me on the back of the fact I still don't have Ace BT, if it even features Ace BT. And then I'm happy to wait for a banner that has 2 prizes on it, so that I can try and pull for it along with his BT then. And then finally, Doma Dragoon says, I'm fine with waiting for Zack's BT to seriously try for his LD. I'll still throw a few tickets depending on what's on the banner, but I don't really need him. I'll be honest, I'll probably end up throwing a few tickets at it because I have the willpower of somebody who doesn't have a lot of willpower. But I do think that if you're skipping him, you're fine without him. If you like him and you go for him, you'll definitely get use out of him. He's one of those characters, and honestly, the same can be said of a lot of characters nowadays. So that's going to be all for today's video. Let us know in the comments below, of course, whether you're going to be pulling for Zack, or whether you're waiting to see what the banner actually has in it, or if you're just going to go for him regardless of what else is in it, because I'm sure there's a fair few people who'll be doing that as well. Zack is rather popular, you see. And of course, thank you very much for listening to what I had to say earlier, and I do want to reiterate that I'm fine as a person, and I'm fine going forward. Like, the channel's in a really good place right now, and I am happy moving forward, but I wanted to sort of address the questions that I've been getting a lot of recently, and I do want to also point out that pulls was just an example of why I felt fearful of certain things. I basically, to consolidate, to TLDR it, as it were, I'm basically fearful of people waiting for me to mess up, or waiting for me to do something that they can read online or read me to filth for, because it does happen with a very high frequency, and it does affect me, but it won't stop me. So thank you very much for listening to that. Of course, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications of any future videos I might be making, and if you have any questions on anything that I've said today, whether it be about Zack, Dissidia, or anything else that I've mentioned today, then by all means come and find me on Twitch and come and chat to me on there. It'd be lovely to talk to you. And with that, I shall leave you. So thank you all very much again, and I'll see you soon. Take care.